All right, so move on to the next segment. I'll be sharing my thoughts on the New York Giants deciding to bench quarterback Daniel Jones. So my co-host Rob Sarasulo would love to hear the tea on this segment for how I'm going to express my thoughts on his team benching their franchise quarterback Daniel Jones. The New York Giants at this current moment find themselves at 2-8. They're coming off their bye week. And the team has announced that Daniel Jones has been benched and labelized as the third string quarterback on the depth chart. They are going with Tommy DeVito as the starter. They will have Drew Lock as the second string. And they will have Daniel Jones as the third string quarterback for the remainder of the NFL season. So, thoughts on this? I'm not really surprised that the New York Giants finally decided to bench Daniel Jones. We all know Daniel Jones is the problem with this New York Giants team. He has not played up to par since he got that massive contract a year ago. I mean, this year he's played awful. 8 passing touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And he's really been holding them back because if you look at this New York Giants team, I've said when I've talked about the Giants, they have an underrated defense. There's a lot of talent, especially at the with pass rushers of Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns. They got some talent out there in New York. The offensive line is really starting to come together. Malik Neighbors is going to be their star-studded wide receiver for years to come for the New York Giants. And it took Daniel Jones a total of 2 years since he signed that contract to throw a touchdown at MetLife Stadium earlier this year. So that's all you need to know about Daniel Jones. And plus, it showed that the Giants gambled on the wrong player. A few years ago, you had the chance to either give Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley the big bag. What do? You pay Daniel Jones this massive contract, and now Saquon Barkley is out there playing with the Philadelphia Eagles, balling in their offense. Is really looking like a Christian McCaffrey, a gadget player that you run the ball with, and a viable pass catcher with out there in Philadelphia. The Eagles are their arch nemesis, their biggest rival in the NFC East, and they also let one of their best receivers, McKinney, go walk because they couldn't afford him as well. So, and you see what he's doing with the Green Bay Packers on the defensive side of the ball. So, all of this, the cash in and go all in with Daniel Jones, who only won one playoff game. If you remove that 1 year that he had it with the New York Giants when they won a playoff game, Brian Daboll's first year, where he did look like he did get the best out of Daniel Jones that year, fix his mechanics. What they should have did was give Saquon Barkley the big contract because he was really the X factor and really carrying that New York Giants offense at the time. You should have gave Saquon Barkley the big contract. Maybe you could have had the money to keep McKinney with this defense now. He's one of the best safeties in the league. And Daniel Jones, you could have franchise tagged and make him prove it again. But they panicked and paid Daniel Jones unnecessary money. Now it's biting them in the ass because look at how McKinney is playing with the Packers. Look at how Saquon Barkley is playing with the Eagles. And also, the Giants, when you think about what the Giants could have did, they could have easily had that. Once you saw Daniel Jones, let's go back to last year. Daniel Jones, minus the torn ACL, he was already playing bad the previous year last year, before the torn ACL happened. So, based off of the film that you had, knowing that he was coming back from a torn ACL, you could have put the ball in his court and made him prove that he's worth the money by bringing in a veteran quarterback, Russell Wilson, who was cut by the Denver Broncos earlier during the offseason in the springtime. All you had to do was sign him for the veteran deal. And look who did it, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And look at the position that they're in. They're 8-2, first place in the AFC North right now. So, man, oh man, the turn of events. And realistically, I'm not saying the Giants would have first place in the NFC East with the Eagles and the Commanders this year being in the division. But they could have at least been a wild card team at best in the NFC right now with this roster, with a underrated defense, with an offensive line that's finally coming together, with a star-studded wide receiver that's ready to take off in Malik Neighbors that really, even though he's fresh and he's green as a rookie, Was Daniel Jones really getting them the ball as many times as necessary for the Giants to put up points? No. So overall, I never understood why the Giants drafted Daniel Jones in the first place with their 6th overall pick in the 2019 NFL Draft. The man never had the it factor. He never had the it factor. Never had it at Duke playing in the ACC. I don't think what I've seen, what the world's seen of him, the footage that we got at Duke, I don't think he was made for the big lights in New York City. And that was a horrible transition from going from Eli Manning, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, to a guy in the ACC, an athletic guy, but not built to carry a franchise, and Daniel Jones. How he was the starter this long in New York, I don't know. But it's all over for Daniel Jones. His time is over. And he's probably played his final snap for the New York Giants, because no matter what happens, they're either going to keep going to Tommy DeVito or Drew Lock for the remainder of the season. So it's all over for Daniel Jones. Now, thoughts on Brian Daboll coaching for his job. Now, I do not believe that the Giants should fire Brian Daboll. I think Brian Daboll is a good coach, and he's done the best that he could with Daniel Jones. I mean, how many coaches, offensive-minded guys in the National Football League can really help change Daniel Jones? Think about what Brian Daboll did when he was the offense coordinator with the Buffalo Bills. He helped Josh Allen become the quarterback that he is by fixing his mechanics. Yeah, you've seen Brian Daboll do that in the first year that he had Daniel Jones, but after that, you really couldn't fix anything. So he's done everything that he could with Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones is clearly the problem when you look at this New York Giants roster. They're just one quarterback away. So I don't think firing Brian Daboll is really the answer here. However, he is coaching for his job. I don't understand, if you're coaching for your job, Brian Daboll, put the next best quarterback in the lineup. That is Drew Lock. Drew Lock has more potential and a better chance to win you games, in my opinion, than what Tommy DeVito does. So I think you could go, Brian Daboll, this is a mistake, because you go deep in your bag play calling wise. Since you are the play caller on the sidelines, being the head coach as well, you can get the best offense that you can out of Drew Lock, and then be evaluated by the end of the season. But Tommy DeVito, I think Drew Lock should be the guy to start. So I don't think it's fair that Brian Daboll is on the hot seat. I think he should keep his job while the franchise gets a new quarterback. Now, I'm not sure how many times the Giants can continue to flip the switch on and on, because since 2016, the Giants have fired 3 head coaches in the last 8 years. I mean, Ben McAdoo, we all know he was a failure in the National Football League. They didn't bring back Steve Spagnuolo when he was the interim head coach. And Joe Judge was a failure. And they've also made several front office changes. Eventually, you got to get it right. So the Giants got a lot of decisions to make this offseason. They got to if they fire Brian Daboll, they got to get the right guy to come in. They got to hit on a quarterback this NFL draft. The quarterback position has to be the number one thing on the Giants draft board for this spring in 2025. But those are my thoughts on the Giants benching Daniel Jones, and those are my thoughts on Brian Daboll now fighting for his job, being the head coach with the New York Giants.